When a woman stops seeking approval, men don't just notice it changes how they move, how they speak, how they feel. Some rise, some retreat, and their reaction reveals more than words ever could. When approval is removed, men are no longer responding to comfort, reassurance, or emotional cushioning. They are responding to reality, and reality requires a choice. Rising into accountability or retreating into avoidance is not a conscious decision most of the time. It is an instinctive reaction shaped by emotional maturity. A woman who stops seeking approval disrupts the emotional flow men have grown used to. She no longer fills gaps, smooths tension, or adjusts herself to maintain connection. That absence forces men to face their own internal structure. Some step up, others step away. Accountability begins when a man recognizes that the emotional work is no longer being done for him. He can no longer rely on her checking in, reassuring him, or making sense of his silence. Her grounded presence removes the safety net of emotional dependency. This kind of man notices the shift and responds by becoming more intentional. He pays attention to how he communicates. He becomes aware of his tone, his consistency, his follow-through. Not because she demands it, but because her self-respect sets a standard that cannot be ignored. He understands that connection now requires clarity instead of comfort. Rising into accountability means accepting that attraction is no longer maintained through control or validation. It is maintained through integrity. A man who chooses accountability does not feel threatened by her independence. He feels challenged in a healthy way. Her self-approval pushes him to evaluate his own behavior. Is he showing up fully or halfway? Is he honest or avoidant? Is he present or distracted? These questions surface naturally when approval is no longer offered freely, and answering them requires effort. Avoidance, on the other hand, is a retreat from that effort. Men who relied on approval to regulate their emotions feel exposed when it disappears. They may not understand why they feel uneasy, but they feel it immediately. Conversations feel different. Her silence carries weight. Her calm no longer invites reassurance seeking. Instead of stepping up, avoidance looks for escape routes. This can show up as emotional withdrawal, delayed responses, mixed signals, or sudden loss of interest, not because the connection lost value, but because accountability feels overwhelming. Avoidance often disguises itself as indifference. A man may tell himself that she has changed, become distant, or too independent. This narrative protects him from confronting the real issue. Her lack of approval no longer supports his emotional habits. He cannot rely on being needed to feel secure. Without that familiar role, he feels unanchored. Rather than grounding himself, he distances himself. Avoidance feels safer than growth when emotional responsibility has never been practiced. Some men oscillate between accountability and avoidance. They sense her strength and are drawn to it, but they also feel the pressure it creates. They may step forward briefly, offering attention or effort, then retreat when consistency is required. This push and pull is not about confusion, it is about resistance. Accountability demands sustained presence. Avoidance allows temporary relief. A woman who no longer seeks approval does not chase clarity in these moments. She observes behavior, and observation removes ambiguity. Accountability changes how men handle conflict. When approval was present, conflict could be softened, delayed, or avoided entirely through reassurance. Without it, tension must be addressed directly. Men who rise into accountability engage with discomfort instead of escaping it. They communicate openly. They take responsibility for misunderstandings. They do not rely on her emotional flexibility to fix things. They understand that respect now carries more weight than charm. Avoidant men experience conflict as a threat rather than an opportunity for connection. Without approval to smooth edges, they may shut down or deflect. Silence becomes a shield. Distance becomes a strategy. They may hope the issue resolves itself or that her standards will lower again. But a woman grounded in self-approval does not chase resolution at the cost of self-respect. Her stillness becomes a mirror, and mirrors are uncomfortable for those avoiding accountability. Rising into accountability also changes how men approach effort. They no longer assume availability. They no longer take emotional labor for granted. They understand that attention must be intentional, not habitual. This does not make connection rigid. It makes it real. Men who choose accountability feel more secure over time because the relationship is built on mutual responsibility rather than emotional dependence. They are not guessing where they stand. They are showing where they stand. Avoidance, however, leads to instability. Men who retreat often experience lingering confusion. They may feel drawn to her presence but unable to maintain it. Her self-approval continues to unsettle them even from a distance. This is why avoidant behavior can look inconsistent. They reach out, then disappear. They test boundaries, then pull back. They are not responding to her actions. They are responding to their own discomfort with accountability. A woman who stops seeking approval does not force either response. She does not demand accountability, and she does not chase avoidant behavior. Her role is not to manage reactions. Her role is to remain aligned. This alignment naturally separates men who are capable of growth from those who are not ready for it. Accountability feels like expansion. Avoidance feels like contraction, and both are revealed quickly in the absence of approval. Men who rise into accountability often describe feeling more grounded around such a woman. Her stability creates a sense of emotional order. They know where they stand because she is consistent within herself. Men who retreat into avoidance often describe feeling restless or uncertain, even if they cannot articulate why. Her presence disrupts patterns they relied on unconsciously, and disruption is uncomfortable for those who depend on emotional shortcuts. This dynamic is not about punishing men or withholding affection. It is about removing emotional dependency as the foundation of connection. Approval once masked emotional immaturity. Without it, behavior speaks clearly. Accountability looks like steadiness, presence, and responsibility. Avoidance looks like distance, inconsistency, and deflection. A woman who validates herself does not label these responses. She simply notices them. And in noticing, she allows truth to surface without resistance. A woman's self-approval creates a mirror for men, showing them who they really are and how they truly show up. When she stops seeking approval, men can no longer rely on her reactions to guide or soften their behavior. They're forced to confront themselves. Some rise to meet her energy with accountability, presence, and consistency, while others retreat, avoid, or seek control in subtler ways. Her grounded self-validation exposes patterns that were previously hidden behind emotional negotiation. Men who respond with accountability begin to take responsibility for their words, actions, and energy. They communicate clearly, act intentionally, and engage without relying on her to adjust or reassure them. They feel the pressure of her authenticity, and instead of resisting it, they grow into it. Her calm confidence forces them to recognize that connection is no longer sustained by dependency, but by mutual presence. Men who retreat into avoidance react from discomfort rather than choice. They may distance themselves emotionally, withdraw attention, or create inconsistency in their engagement. Her lack of need exposes their reliance on familiar dynamics, leaving them to navigate a space they were previously shielded from. Avoidance can look like distraction, disengagement, or even subtle manipulation, as they attempt to regain emotional leverage that no longer exists. Conflict and communication shift dramatically. Where once she might have softened tension through approval-seeking behaviors, now disagreements must be met with clarity and integrity. Men who embrace accountability approach these moments with honesty and care, recognizing that resolution is earned through effort and respect rather than charm or appeasement. Men who avoid accountability perceive discomfort as a threat, often responding with defensiveness or withdrawal. Her self-validation also changes daily interactions. Decisions, attention, and emotional energy are no longer passively guided by the desire for approval. Men must actively choose to show up, and in doing so, reveal their true intentions and priorities. Some rise to the challenge, showing steadiness, thoughtfulness, and engagement. Others falter, exposing patterns of dependency, avoidance, or immaturity. Ultimately, when a woman stops seeking approval, she does not dictate how men respond. She simply exists in her own certainty, providing a space where their reactions become a reflection of their own emotional state. Accountability manifests as consistency, presence, and integrity. Avoidance manifests as distance, inconsistency, and subtle attempts to reclaim control. Her self-approval acts as a filter, separating those capable of genuine connection from those unwilling to face themselves. This dynamic is neither punitive nor manipulative. It is the natural result of removing dependency as a foundation for interaction. Men are forced to meet truth with truth. They are forced to recognize patterns of behavior they may have ignored. And through their reactions, whether accountable or avoidant, they reveal the depth of their emotional maturity, the strength of their integrity, and their willingness to engage with authenticity rather than convenience.